Alrighty, welcome all. So today we are going over just a few questions for this level one section. So if you are here, you are looking to do some of those level one problems and you're just really having a harder time with these two-step equations, and that's totally okay. That's perfect actually. And we're gonna go over level 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3 together. And hopefully by the end, if you have any questions, please while you're watching this, please put your questions in chat, right? I am Mr. V of the past. I cannot answer your questions right now, but the Mr. V of the present that is sitting in that Zoom with you, he is perfectly capable of answering questions. The big advantage of this being a video is you can have it at your own pace. So pause it, fast forward when you totally understand. I would suggest not. If you're in this level especially, you're not too sure about most things. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, I don't know where my tab for some of this stuff is. Let's see here. Oh, my recording's on. Let's see if I have some. Oh, there it is. Okay, there we go. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Hopefully, well, maybe you saw me, maybe you didn't. We're going to start by looking at 2x plus 3 equals 9. Now, this equation has two steps, as they all do, right? And we're going to go over what those two steps are. Now, it's really important for you to know the order that we do these steps in, and almost every time, in fact, I'm going to say, as of now, just like always, you're going to start with this plus 3. And we're going to use this process that we call inverse operations, okay? And I'm going to abbreviate. Oh, actually, you know what? I'll write the whole thing. Inverse operations. And you might be thinking, okay, Mr. V, I've heard of inverse operations before. You've said that. Pardon this E. What an absolute meme of an E. LOL. Yeah, so inverse operations. Well, inverse means opposite, right? So we need to do the opposite operation. And you might be like, operation, like a doctor? No, an operation is a sign, that plus sign, a minus sign, a times, or a division. So when we have, this 2x plus 3 equals 9 right here, we are able to use the opposite of plus 3 to get rid of this plus 3. Okay, so the other thing that these these two-step equations need, and all equations need, is a line down the middle to tell us where we're at and where we act, because that's going to bring our next step up. So what is the opposite of plus 3? Put this in your Pear Deck right now. Please put this in your Pear Deck right now. Take some time to do that. What is the opposite of plus 3? And go ahead and put what that is right here. And that's going to be minus 3. And this is the big deal. If you can get that minus 3, that's perfect. But we have to remember that we can't just throw in random numbers. We have to act equally on both sides. So when we minus 3 on the left, we also minus 3 on the right. Awesome. So when we've minus 3 on both sides, like we have here, that is good. That's a perfect first step for our two-step equation. Now, what does this do? Well, the big reason we do this, remember, is to get rid of this plus 3 and this minus 3. That cancels those out. And what we're left with here is just this basic 2x, right? So we get 2x equals, and then we have this side left. Now, a lot of people get confused here. They'll say, okay, 2x equals 9, or 2x equals negative 3. But what we have to do here is we have to combine these two digits, these two integers. And when we combine 9 and negative 3, we have to, well, some of us might be thinking, oh, that's 9 minus 3. It is 9 minus 3. That's exactly right. And our answer will be 6. But sometimes they're a little trickier with these negatives and such. Remember that opposite signs, so this is a positive 9, right? There's nothing in front of it, so it's positive. So our positive 9 and our minus 3, those opposite signs mean we subtract and take the sign of the bigger number. So 9 minus 3 is 6, and we take that positive. So remember, we are like, this is a culmination, or like we are at the pinnacle of all of the things we've learned up to this point, right? That's why we use all these integer addition rules and subtraction and negatives and yada yada. So, okay, let's go ahead and move to the second rule. And the second rule is going to be in green. And I want you to tell me, what is the opposite operation we can use here? Some of us might be like, oh, Mr. V, I totally know that. I've seen you do this enough times. I'm remembering this now. Great. But this one's confusing for some people. We see this 2x and we're like, there's no operation there, Mr. V. When there is a number in front of a variable, that number is called the coefficient, right? So this 2 is the coefficient. That coefficient and the variable are multiplying each other. There is a times happening between them. So if I put in a really, really small, like a black pen so we can barely see it, these are like timesing each other. 2 times x. And when we get those, when we see that that's times, we can think, what's the opposite of times? Not times x, but times 2. And that is dividing by 2. Now, I am going to represent division like this. I'm going to put a line right here like a fraction, because fractions are division. And this is just easier for me. A little line like this is like, oh, I'm dividing by 2. Perfect. And remember, I just did that to both sides automatically because sometimes I just do that. I'm so used to doing it. We have to do it to both sides. Make sure to divide on both sides. Perfect. This is going to cancel out our 2's. And what we're left with is x equals 6 over 2 is 3. Right? And if you're confused about that, this is the exact same thing as 6 divided by 2. Okay. If you have any questions, please ask them to Mr. V now. Pause it and ask him, because present Mr. V, he is smarter than even I am. So, all right, we're going to move on. Remember, if you need to copy this down, pause the screen, copy it down now. Let's move on forward. Oh, this is so cool. We have different, oh man, I gotta be careful here. There's so many fun tools. For level 1.2 here, we're gonna do the exact same thing. So we're gonna start off with a little line here that looks like, oh, it's a rectangle, but I'm cheating and turning it into a line because I like my lines to be straight. And we need to know, what are we doing first? Well, you just saw what I did first last time, right? When I had the opportunity to deal with that plus or the minus, that is what I did first. Whenever you see plus or minus a number on the same side as x, so here's our x right here, then that is what you need to deal with first. The 5, we could deal with it first. I don't want to. I'm going to deal with this minus 2 first. And it's just going to make my life easier. I don't have to divide 2 and 18 by 5, because that's what I will have to do if I start here. So instead, I'm going to go ahead and plus 2 on both sides. Remember, on both sides, always on both sides. Now we get 5x and then minus 2 and plus 2. Now, this is a little tricky for some people. They're like, why do you cancel this out? What's the purpose? I want to explain that here really quickly. That minus 2 and plus 2, they kind of work like as exact opposites. It's like, okay, we have you gain $2, right? Or you lose $2 right here. That's what minus 2 is. Say, oh, shoot, I had to pay $2 to my mom. I owed her money because she bought me some chips from the store. But then you gained $2 because your sister owed you $2 for, I don't know, because she lost a bet. And then all of a sudden, you lost your $2, but then you gained it back. How much money do you have? 0. That means that you have no money because you lost it and then you gained it back. It's like, all right, nothing changed. So this becomes 0. And that's why we cancel it out. Then we get 5x because we didn't do anything to the 5x, right? We just get 5x equals still. And then we have 18 plus 2. Remember, we add these, add these, add these, add these. And when we do that, 18 plus 2, that's a normal math problem, y'all. 5x equals 20. Now, I'm going to encourage you to look into what this next step is. Pause this video for just a second. Think, what am I going to need to do to both sides to get x by itself? I'm going to keep going here. So if you haven't paused yet, pause it. Let's do it. I need to divide by 5. So when I get 5x over 5, that means those 5s are going to cancel out, right? 5 divided by 5 is 1. So when I get 1x, well, that's just x, because 1 times anything is whatever that thing is. So 1 times 10 is 10, 1 times a million is a million, 1 times x is x. So when we get that, we get 5s, going to cancel out here, get out of here, and then we get what's left over here, which is just x equals, and 20 over 5. What does that equal? What operation is this? That's division. That's division. So what's 20 divided by 5? It is quattro. Was a really bad Spanish there. My apologies to all my Spanish speakers. Quattro. It's that R. I can't hit it right. I'll learn. I'll learn one day. Duolingo will teach me. Okay, so go ahead and copy this into your Pear Deck. Do you have a question? Great. Ask Mr. V. Don't have a question? Cool. Don't have a question and are still confused? Tell Mr. V right now. That's like that's the one I think is the most important. If you're like, I don't even know what to ask. Say that. Like, say, Mr. V, I'm totally lost. And if you're like close, remember this is a video that you can rewind and rewatch. So I'm going to take a couple more seconds here. If you need to pause the video, please do. Let's go ahead and move on. Oops. That's for level 2, which hopefully y'all will get to. And we have our hardest problem for sure. And the reason this is hardest is not just because of that 1/2 x, because I think that that's not the worst. In fact, it's almost easier in some ways. What's hard here is this -6 and this -9. This is where things get a little tricky. Now, by now, you should know what our first step is. And I'm not talking about what we're going to do on both sides. I'm talking about before that, and it involves something that is vertical. And that is our line. We need a line. Oh, that was bad. Let's try for a little bit better. Ooh. You know the meme of the kid looking at the computer like, that's how I feel right now. Message me if you thought that was funny, because I thought that was a good interpretation of that. Anyway, 1/2 x minus 9 equals -6. Now, what do we do on both sides? Try it out. I'll give you a hint. It has to do with this -9. And what we are going to do is we will plus 9. Inverse of -9 is plus 9. We plus 9 on both sides. One thing that I like to do sometimes is I like to remember that these are equal. If you want to put an equal sign here, you totally can. It helps you remember to do things that are the same on both sides always. I always maintain equality. Plus 9 on both sides, that's equal. So I'm still staying equal on both sides of the line. Now, when I do that, of course, the -9 and the +9 cancel out, and my 1/2 x goes here. Now, this is where things might get a bit tricky for us, but we'll get through it, because we have -6 plus 9. Okay, -6 plus 9. Same sign or different signs? Think about it. Same sign or different signs? Okay. Now, based on what you just answered, the same signs means we add and keep, but different signs means we subtract the numbers and take the sign of whatever number is larger. So what would that be? What would happen if I subtracted here? What would I get? And then what's the bigger number? Well, this is the weirdest looking 9 I've ever made. Way too tall, way too skinny. Just like me sometimes. Negative 6 plus 9. Well, 9 minus 6 is 3. And I did 9 minus 6 because it's bigger. It's hard to subtract a small, like the difference between the two is 3. And then we take the sign of the bigger number. What's bigger, 6 or 9? 9. So I take that plus. So 1/2 x equals positive 3. Oh no. Oh no. Now we have this step. How do I get rid of this 1/2? Well, I'm here to tell you it's not as hard as you think. Is this purple going to be good? Oh yeah, that's visible. What I need to do on both sides is multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal. I'm going to do it in a different color. That blue, it's good, but not good enough. Reciprocal. And as I'm writing this, can you remember what the reciprocal is? What is the reciprocal? I'll give you a hint. It has something to do with fractions. Okay, if you don't remember, a reciprocal is the flipped version of the fraction, right? So the opposite of 1/2, or the reciprocal of 1/2, is 2 over 1. Now, why do we care what the reciprocal is? Why do I have to add another difficult word to math? Well, what's so awesome about the reciprocal is when you multiply that 1/2 by its reciprocal, it turns into 1 and completely cancels out, right? This ends up being, let me move it over here so we can see it a bit better. 2 over 1 times 1 over 2 ends up being 2 over 2, which just equals 1. Boom, baby, let's go. That's awesome. That's so simple. So those can get canceled out, and we're just going to be left with x on this left side, right? Get x equals 3. No, why isn't it 3? Why isn't it 3? Because we have to multiply by 2 over 1 on both sides. And you might be thinking, oh, that's not fun. But it's not that bad. First off, you could just change this to 2 because it's 3 times 2. 2 over 1 is 2. Not bad. But I want to do this as a fraction in case you get a harder one in the future. So we get 3 over 1 times 2 over 1, which equals 3 times 2 is 6. And 1 times 1 is 1. 6 over 1, which equals, well, 6, oh, just 6. Okay, that's it. Copy this down. If you have any questions, ask Mr. B. When you finish these 3 questions, take just a second and let Mr. B know that you've done them, and then you're going to go ahead and move on to level 2. Great job, everyone. I hope this video was helpful. Please feel free to reference any of the videos on this channel as much as you need. There's videos talking about so many different things. So, but don't do that now. Maybe do that during office hours or at another time. Stay focused. Get to that level 2. It should be the next slide, and there should be a link to a new video. Adios. Good luck.